Hello, fellow Voyagers. Jess here with Odyssey Human, here today to talk about how judgment freezes realities in time and space. Welcome to the channel. This is a place where we help you hack through the jungles of consciousness so that you can discover the hidden treasures inside of you. My friends, it's all there, ready and waiting to be activated by you, through you, and for you. If that sounds good, please subscribe. We'd love to have you join us on the channel. Now, I am not one to lecture people on morality, but when I say judgment, I really want to talk about judgment today because judgment freezes realities. And here's why, right? When we observe a circumstance happen and we tell a story about it, we believe the truth of that story, right? We, in that judgment or the prediction, we literally freeze time and space. And we do that because observation is space, right? That's how we manipulate space, is through observation, right? The things we pay attention to are in our existence. The things that we don't are out, they're not in our experience, right? If a tree falls in the woods and we're not there to hear it, it doesn't really exist for us. That's not to say it doesn't exist in absolute existence. Of course it does. But we're talking, what our focus is our own individual experience, right? If we're not experiencing it, if we're not paying attention to it, it fades out of our personal individual experience. So, and attention is how we manipulate space, right? We use our body, our senses to hone in on space, on certain spaces, what's happening in those spaces, and observe it. And then with our story, right, with the language that we use around a circumstance, that's how we manipulate time. And for everyone who was mansplaining to me about what time is, I know time, when I speak of time, I'm speaking from my perception of time. And time for each one of us is different because we are our own experience of time, right? It's an individual thing. For some people, time goes very slowly. For some, it goes very quickly. And how we shape time is with our language. Our language, that's how we pinpoint. When I say in 1692, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, or whatever, yesterday I did this, or tomorrow I'm going to do this. We quantify whatever your experience of time is through language. We use language. I mean, even our tenses in language, past tense, present tense, future tense, right? Our language shapes time. So when you judge something, when you see a circumstance happening outside of you and you judge it, you're like, oh, that's that, right? You're assigning truth. That is your power as creator. I've talked about this, granting realness. Check out the video about the Velveteen Rabbit if you haven't watched it yet. It's a good one. We grant realness. That is our power as creator. We see something and we put language around it that cocoons that vision, that memory. It crystallizes it in time and space. It literally freezes it. And if you can imagine it like the Titanic sinking, you want to be like Rose. Don't go down with the ship, right? Don't go down with the ship. Because when we judge a circumstance, we're putting a truth on that we think that is the truth of the situation, the only truth. And that is what we calibrate then our habits from. We calibrate it from that. And especially, this is true when we judge something that did not work out in our favor. We do ourselves a great disservice because what that does when we freeze it in time and space, right? That plate or that spoon or that is the situation, is the circumstance. And when we judge it, we lock a story into it and it sinks down into that cold, deep ocean and lays there on the ocean floor for the rest of eternity in our experience, in our personal experience. And then what is memory? Oh, we're going back down to the ocean floor, to that plate, to that piece of china, and we're experiencing it all over again because we as creators have frozen the situation in time and space to create a memory that we can return to and say, yeah, this is how it was, and give more realness to it, right? Keep giving it realness, keep giving it realness. Whereas when we don't do this, when we don't do this, when we don't apply a judgment, right? This is when, in my third eye video, I advised back up this whole process and just observe things. Because when we just observe it without telling a story on it, right, we're just playing in the spatial realm. We're not adding time to it. We're not freezing that experience into a memory and infusing it with realness and then allowing it to dictate then how we behave and our actions that come from that. When we don't do that, when we go back to just observing something and not attaching story, we're just like, that's interesting. And it passes out of our awareness and back into the ether, back into that field of potential where it could be anything. It could be anything again, right? As opposed to when we freeze it in time and space, make it a memory, pass a judgment on it. This is how it is. This is how it is. I know this. I know it. I know it deep down. And this is what we do. We do it so automatically, this entire process. We do it so automatically that we don't even see that we are the ones assigning that meaning and freezing things in time and space and then going back to that memory, that sunken treasure at the bottom of this cold, dark ocean where that memory never changes, or does it? This is particularly unproductive when it's things that didn't work out in our favor, that we perceive did not work out in our favor, right? It didn't turn out the way I wanted. It didn't work. My manifestation didn't work. It's not here. It's whatever. When we do that, when we make those kind of judgments, we're sending that thing, that concept, the idea, that story, that person, that event to the bottom of the ocean for the rest of eternity to sit there on the ocean floor. And what it does is it creates this huge debris field where it erodes our belief in ourselves as the creator. It totally erodes our belief because by doing that, by saying this didn't work out the way I wanted to, right? We're handing power to the 3D and saying, you have control over me. You have power over me. That circumstances outside of myself can dictate whether I judge if this turned out in my favor or not. We're handing that power away, and we're creating this massive debris field that is eroding our self-concept. It erodes our self-concept as a creator because we're like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. This reality creation stuff doesn't work. I don't get what I want, right? What you're saying, you're reinforcing a bigger habit of not getting what you want, of all of your ships sinking. Your ships will always sink because you are sinking them, right? You're judging them as sunk. You're judging them as not working out. You're judging it as this technique didn't get me to where I wanted. When you are the one assigning realness, you're the one saying this worked or it didn't work, right? That's your judgment. How do you know? How do you know? Do you know all of the players in the equation? No, you don't. You can't, we always, and if it's a situation where it did turn out the way you wanted, great, judge away. But if it's a situation that did not turn out the way you wanted, this was one of the things that really held me back for a very, very long time, is continuing to judge my 3D circumstances as, oh, that didn't work. I still didn't get what I want. I'm applying all these concepts and, really using what I thought was the law of assumption and following it to the letter and still not perceiving and still continuing to judge, to create those frozen memories that sunk and having this huge mile-long, debris field of things that essentially, when you take them holistically, means that I am not a very good manifester, right? I'm not getting the things that I want. If you look at it from a self-concept point of view of what is the bigger judgment on myself I am passing in assuming that these little things, oh, I didn't, I put that out there and I didn't get it. Or that's what it does. It erodes you as a creator. It erodes your belief in yourself of that this works, that you are everything, right? It erodes that. And these little offenses that start adding up, right? And that feeling just really sucks. It's really disempowering. So if you find yourself playing that game, cling to any idea that helps you survive. You want to be like Rose and not Jack. You're not going to freeze in the water, and you're not going to let yourself go down with the ship, right? Go down with all of these memories that you are making and judgments that you're passing, these circumstances that you freeze in space and time and return to and say, well, that didn't work out, right? That didn't work out. Starting to let go of those. Release the judgments. Release the judgments. Send the situation back into the field of potential of like, I don't know what happened. Anything could have happened. Everything could have happened. It did. And that is the bigger reality of this, is that your judgment gives realness to what actually happened. So why would you not say, oh, this always worked out in my favor? It is working out in my favor. It did, it is, and it will work out in my favor. It always does. And then that piece is what you will start projecting, right? You'll start projecting more of that, of it is working out in my favor. And sometimes it's just piece by piece that we rebuild our ship. We rebuild our ship, right? And we move on with life like Rose. She clung to that door. She didn't freeze and sink down to the bottom of the ocean like Jack did. So cling to any idea, any win that you have when you say to yourself, you go back and say, you can revise, you can go back into memories that you have where you really feel like you got jilted, you got rejected, you got whatever, and you can revise them and say, that really worked out in my favor. So you can have an image of it working out in your favor, or from a logical point of view, you can talk yourself into and self-persuade that did work out in my favor. What many people would look at that mistake, something better came along. Like I did create better for myself in that situation. So you can do revision with memories that you have. You can practice this actively in the present moment. When you feel yourself going into a judgment of a situation, back off and observe. Back off and observe. Observe only. Give it the chance to take on a different form. Right? Give it the chance to show you that it's more than you think it is. The situation is more than you think it is. So often, so many of us, we're doing the best that we can with the information that we have. And especially when we judge other people. We're all, from our perspective, doing the best that we can. And others may have different information than we have. But from our point of view, from our human experience, and you'll find often when you dig into a situation and you actually sit down and have a conversation with someone, that's where their choices are coming from, is doing the best that they can with the information that they have, the habits that they're operating out of, their past experiences. They're doing the best that they can, and maybe they don't know what they don't know. And so that is part of, practicing being non-judgmental in the moment. And again, I'm not advocating being non-judgmental as some moral, you should be moral about this. This is the moral thing to do. No, I'm talking about being completely putting yourself in the center and allowing situations that you initially would perceive as not going your way, not to give your power away in that moment. Because that's what we do when we judge. We give our power away. We say, oh, this didn't work out. Think about that. When you say that, you are saying that circumstances outside of my control are prohibiting me from imagining that this did work out for me and putting all of my creative power behind that decision, giving realness to that reality instead of the one that I am seeing outside of myself or judging outside of myself, right? So we can also do this with the future, right? We can do this with the future. We can see everything as, and this is what we're trained to do with reality creation is keep your eye on the prize, keep it on the goal, keep it on the intended outcome. That is the essence of what we are asked to do. Live in the end and nothing else. Do not succumb to the reality where it didn't work out for you, where it didn't work out, because the minute you do, like I said, the minute you do, even if your eye is on the prize and you see it, you see that land coming, you know it's coming, you see it in the distance, you feel it in your heart, your desire, the thing you want, the person you want to be, right? Lock your vision on that, because so many of us, right? A wave comes along and tosses us, and then we can't see land anymore. And then suddenly we have frozen whatever circumstances or events came up that knocked us off course. We've frozen that memory in time and space, and now it's sunk to the bottom of the ocean, that cold, dark ocean. And we're not looking at land anymore, right? We're not keeping our eye on the end. We're not living in the end. We're living at the bottom of a cold, dark ocean, crying over this piece of china that fell off our ship, right? We're stuck in this watery, dark, unpleasant place. That's what we do. That's what we do. So, cling to any idea that helps you survive. Cling to any idea that will drift you into land. Find any small win. At first, in my experience, this is how it has felt for me. When I start to bring in a new habit of deciding who I am, right? When I wanted to change this bigger self-concept of myself, of things do work out for me. Everything does work out for me. That is initially not what I saw, right? I still had that old habit of judging things as not working out. Well, it's done. It didn't work. It didn't work out, throwing my hands up, and then, another one down to the bottom of the ocean, sinking, just a lot of sinking, that sinking feeling. How I clung to the door that would take me to land is that any win that I saw, any win that came along of like, wow, that really worked out for me. that worked out for me. Wow, see, everything works out for me. And you build your belief circumstance by circumstance as each one of them start to work out. And then the more and more you do it, the more and more you are it. And then suddenly you're on land. And then suddenly you're on land instead of in this debris field of disappointment, of feeling like this isn't working out for you, of feeling like all this stuff doesn't work. It's malarkey. It's baloney, right? What you're essentially doing in not sinking, in not labeling things that didn't turn out the way I wanted, is you're stepping into your full power as a manifester. You're reconditioning yourself, because before you were the 3D creature who got caught up in circumstances, who floundered, when something contrarian came up. You get better and better at keeping your eye on the prize and building your belief that everything does work out for you. You always get what you want because you're reality. You're building that belief piece by piece. You're building your ship piece by piece until you've got this giant steamer and it literally runs into land and beaches itself, right? Your goal. Your goal of being a master manifestor, everything works out for you. And yeah, that's the truth of your situation, of your individual experience. So I know this was helpful to you. Drop a comment below. And if you need a tool to help you recondition your mind into a more peaceful, pleasant, loving space, grab that below. It's always in the description box for you. And yeah, have a great day. Thanks for watching.